Mr. James, Mr. Ted James, or Edward Ted James. I had to get used to that. As
Yeah.
I, have known this gentleman for quite a while, seen him grow up. I know him as Pooh's son. Also, that's a whole nother story for those that are not here. But no, welcome to HBCU Biz as we welcome Mr. Edward Ted James. He's the SBA Regional Administrator. And what that simply means is that he's responsible for everything SBA in the state of Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and part of Texas. You know how big Texas is. And so just imagine the geographical area he covers. But the great thing I love about Ted is he has a passion for small business owners and often the underdog. His background as a state legislator and really as a community motivator and activator really prepares him for this because his passion for that under guy. And as he says in his bio, he was taught at an early age the value of service, the strength of community, the importance of quality education, and the principles of social justice. And, with that, he went to Southern University twice. He didn't just hang out there. He actually got 2 degrees. He has a law degree from Southern University Law Center and a bachelor's also from the main campus. But most important, the heart of service is why we ask him to come on and really share a lot of the resources that oftentimes we don't realize that are available through us. And I'll set the table a little bit, Ted, is I know when COVID hit, PPP, we were talking about bankable books. If my CPA didn't help me have my books ready, I wouldn't have been ready to take advantage of it. And then the second part was the EIDL. It gave you a safety net or a comfort there at a very low interest rate to grow your business and, thrive through that. But there are a lot of other resources. So I'm actually going to really just mute myself and go off screen. I'll be here for any questions. Anyone that has any questions, please place them in the chat. We can bring you on the screen afterwards if you have direct questions of Mr. James. And so for the next 25 to 30 minutes, Mr. James is going to be sharing with us those resources that will help us. Somebody said that I mean to say Texas Southern. No, Southern. Every state has a directional school, but there's only one Southern University. We're a destination school. That's the kind of fun we have here in the HBCU Biz community. Mr. James, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you, Howard. It's funny. I was on a call earlier today. It was the kickoff of the Smart HBCU cluster. That is a group of federal appointees working to elevate some of the grant programs and just initiatives at multiple agencies in the federal government. And I introduced myself as being a graduate of the only historically Black college system in the country, Southern University system. So I felt like it was important for me to say that again, since someone mentioned Texas Southern. But on today, because it is still summer, it is not fall yet, we are all family until the Saturdays during football season. And but thank you all, Jess and Howard. Thank you for those kind words and for just the invitation to share as one of one of the first entrepreneurs that I met at a young age here and has watched had the opportunity to watch you grow and many people come across that hump and over the years and support you and all that you've done. I am excited to greet you all because I recognize that prior to this appointment, the president appointed me in December of last year, and I started with the SBA on January 31st. As Howard mentioned, I spent 10 years in the Louisiana legislature. I'm an attorney by trade. I've been an adjunct professor at Southern University, undergrad and law school, had my private practice, and also worked for the Urban League of Louisiana, helping them to set up their Baton Rouge office. But in those 10 years and in the fight the numerous fights that I had an opportunity to lead and get involved in, I felt like we didn't. I'm not gonna say we didn't do enough, but I felt like the fight for economic justice and access to capital always took a back seat because it was either a black man getting killed by police, it was either a school getting shut down, it was COVID, it was hospitals and emergency rules getting shut down in the black community. And we were so always so focused on the issues with the social issues, but not spending a lot of time on the economics. And I would meet with business owners all the time when issues come up at the legislature, and I would always say, look, man, you need to come and let us know beforehand, because I'm not in your space. I'm not an entrepreneur doing this work every day, so I don't know some of the challenges without you coming to us. So decided to leave the legislature before the Constitution kicked me out, as we have term limits in Louisiana, and started this work on the SBA. Region 6 of the SBA that I have the privilege of representing covers, as Howard mentioned, 5 states. We have 10 district offices throughout the 5 states. My region is the largest region of the 10 SBA regions. So there are 10 regional administrators and 68 district offices throughout the country. Most states have 1 district office, as is true with Louisiana, Arkansas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. The state of Texas has 6. I think California has 5, and Florida has, I believe, 3. So I have the largest region by offices and the largest region by geography. We are in some very interesting, difficult, and challenging times as an agency. As Howard mentioned, we are coming to the end of our COVID recovery programs as an agency. 3 years ago, I think the SBA was vastly unknown about. Here in Louisiana, of course, we knew about the SBA because we are so disaster prone, and the SBA does have an Office of Disaster Assistance that responds and offers access to capital for homeowners, renters, nonprofits, churches, business owners after flood, hurricane, tornado. But not really connected to, or not as connected as we should have been to, the normal operations of the SBA. So after the $500 billion we put out in PPP dollars, COVID idle, restaurant revitalization, shutter venue operators grants, now we're in the process of reintroducing the agency to the community and letting folks know what the SBA can do for them. I look at SBA in 3 different tiers. Number 1, the counseling that we provide through either our district offices or our resource partners. We have resource partners through our Small Business Development Center network. Those are located in universities all throughout the state of Louisiana, where I am, and in most states, the SBDCs are housed on a college campus. Specific to this conversation, we also have women's business centers. So women's business centers are, at this point in our tenure as an agency, we have the highest number of women's business centers that we've ever had in the history of the SBA, largely because the woman that is leading OBO, that's the Office of Women's Entrepreneurship, is a graduate of an HBCU. Her name is Natalie Cofield. She's a graduate of Howard University and a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and she leads that office. And we have just announced, since I've been in the SBA, we have opened women's business centers at about 8 HBCUs. And I should have brought the list, but I know Benedict is one. We had one at Jackson State, one in Tulsa at the spot of Black Wall Street massacre. I mean, the Tulsa race massacres, what we knew as Black Wall Street. Of course, that's not HBCU, but I felt it was important to mention that as well. But we are growing and still looking to expand that operation in our throughout HBCU. So that's where we have individuals, you have an issue or an idea, go to the SBDC or the Women's Business Center to get more information about what you need to grow, start or expand your business. We also have access to capital programs. Every district office has lender relations specialists where they, number one, go out and recruit lenders, right? Not just any lender can be an SBA certified lender. The benefit of being an SBA lender is because the federal government guarantees that loan. So in the event that someone defaults, the federal government guarantees about 80% of that loan. So our lender relations specialist works with the SBA lenders to make sure that they are trained, recruits other lenders to make sure that we bring them into the fold to do SBA loans. And we work with entrepreneurs to make sure that we connect them to the lenders in their area. We also have what's called a lender match on the SBA website, where you could go and put in your information and they'll send you information about an SBA lender. Sometimes they will connect you with an SBA lender that may be on another side of the country. So I always encourage people to go to the district office or one of the resource partners so they can point you to a lender that's in your community. We also have, and I think this is the most important piece, the access to contracts. We have business opportunity specialists that work with entrepreneurs to make sure that they are certified. The federal government is the largest purchaser of goods in the world. So it is always important that we have entrepreneurs that are certified to do work with the federal government. I was just on another call with our State Department of Transportation and Development, and it's important to educate folks on the fact that DBE certifications in your state and local government, that's not a federal certification. So we have small disadvantaged business certifications. We have service disabled veteran certifications, veteran owned business, woman-owned small business. We have hub zone that are underutilized, very rural and mostly destitute areas that the federal government designates as hub zones, and there's a requirement to spend 3% of contracts there. President Biden signed an executive order to increase the percentages of contracts going to small disadvantaged businesses from 5 to 11% in this fiscal year. We've already surpassed that. Our fiscal year ends September 30th. And that goal will be 25% by the end of 2024. So we are working tirelessly throughout the country to make sure that small businesses and entrepreneurs actually have the certification, so that our federal agencies, those contracting officers, are going out looking for those entities and those business owners that have the certifications to do the work. Lastly, I will mention, of course, we just announced a historic memorandum of understanding with the Pan-Hellenic Council. So the SBA signed, we had the leaders of all 9 of the organizations there in Washington, D.C. They were in our SBA office 2 weeks ago to sign a memorandum that we will partner doing financial literacy, talking about access to capital, different trainings to make sure that, number one, our undergraduate students recognize some of the things that they should be doing if they are focused on being the employee, and employer and not the employee, and connecting those in our graduate chapters that may be entrepreneurs or working for companies looking to do business with the federal government. We are connecting them to the SBA resources to make sure that the information is getting to the communities that so desperately need it. Howard, I don't know if you're still there. Of course, I don't want to monopolize all of the time talking. So if there are questions, I am ready to take some questions.
No, Ted, thanks a lot for a whole lot of information. As we bring other folks on, I see people there. You talk about certifications at the state and federal levels. Discuss, if you go through it one time, it's almost becomes a template for your business, because people oftentimes say, man, I don't need to go through all these certifications. I was one of those persons. So right now I'm actually going through the certification process. So if you would share about that, how a lot of the information is the same, with just small tweaks. I've learned that in my 5 months. We do a lot of co-sponsored events with state and local departments, because like Howard mentioned, the things needed for the federal government, and most people as federal government people get, of course, number one is government. So government never makes it easy to do anything, of course. But the information is vastly the same. We want to see, how your business is organized. Of course, I spend a lot of time, reminding folks that getting an LLC is one thing, but you also have to go and register and get their EIN.
And we want to, have your books, right? Have those things handy. A lot of those things are transferable with the federal government as well. You got to have with the federal government, of course, your tax records. That's important not only for certifications but access to capital as well. Howard, you mentioned the EIDL program, and I'm gonna pivot a little bit. We saw a lot of businesses, and I am not making any excuses for any of these programs because they were started way before I got there and they were passed by the Congress. So I'm just giving my vantage point of a 5-month person in, and I've seen, of course, we had some customer service challenges, but I saw a lot of businesses that didn't qualify because their taxes, they either hadn't filed or paid taxes, or their books showed every year that they operated as a loss. And there are some companies out there that do operate as a loss. There are some folks that pick their CPA by how much money that person can save me, or how much how much do I have to pay back, and those things are fine and dandy until you come to the federal government and ask for money. Because the federal government, even with our disaster programs, you have to show that you have an ability to repay. And I saw that a lot in a lot of small businesses because they just didn't have that wherewithal. And when the unexpected occurs, even with a disaster, some of the same criteria that the SBA used for COVID EIDL is the economic injury disaster loan. So those things, that's the same program that if a flood or a hurricane comes. So, making sure that your book's in order, of course, they look for those types of certifications. Being able to show that you have some type of, past performance, of course, is always good. I hear this, and I knew it even as a legislator. I think that's what I mentioned by the federal government makes it hard. You make it a requirement to do federal work that you have done federal work before. So, it's almost like, how do I get in? You gotta let me in first, but you can't keep me out because I haven't had an opportunity. So one of the things that the president has done, as a business owner experience in as a mentor protege, in a JV agreement, now you are given more, you can use that experience as well to show prior government experience, and those help with the certification.
Yeah, and so as you talk about a mentor protege, if you would explain that, because some on the call may not understand that terminology.
Yeah, so basically, it's your small business is working with a larger business. We have those state and local programs that incentivize those larger businesses for bringing on a smaller business to do some percentage of the contracts. Now, I would encourage you to actually pick a mentor that is not just going to list you as a protege and you get a check, but actually go and do the work, because that's how you learn the skills. So one day you become the mentor, right? I see that a lot. And so that piece, the joint venture, and I hear this a lot with businesses, especially from business owners of color, a reluctance to do the joint venture because, of course, when you lock in, you share everything, the profit, the losses, the liabilities. So I know that there's some folks that are reluctant to get into some of those agreements, but with the certifications and a lot of the federal agencies and the SBA office, we are helping through our business opportunity specialists to make sure that the business owners are protected, especially the small guys that are partnering with the larger firm.
No, definitely. And, if you want to ask a question directly of Mr. James, please come on board. Mandrell is there. Mandrell is a brother that's out of Charlotte area. And then also there was another gentleman from Charlotte asked about, did you service Charlotte? No, I know you don't, but you got counterparts in every part of the country.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to, before you unmute yourself, and I'll share with everyone about Ted. He is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, so I'm an Alpha. We always have that fun. He mentioned in that, the Divine Nine agreement. I think that's key because we have to get back in our business as business owners of helping the next generation learn how to start their business. I think if you're on a college campus, and both of you guys can come in on this after you ask your question, Mandro, is a lot of students want to start their own business, Almost all of them want to be entrepreneurs, but they really don't understand the process.
Yep. Yeah. And I tell folks, I'm like, if you, I see a lot of people, even my nephew is this little boy is so talented with a pen. He could draw anything, right? And he does things. I was like, man, you don't have a business, you have a hustle. Right. And it's a difference, right? You are not a business owner, you have a hustle. And, while you think that the $50 you get in here is important, but what happens when somebody takes what you drew and then they go put it on a sweatshirt and then they start selling it, right? You don't have a business, you don't have your things in place. So, and it's important to have those conversations with them, because of course, as a college kid, I wasn't thinking about that either, and I know that he isn't as well. So we, in advance of the, and I'll get to your question, Brother Blackman, in a second. We have, I'm with this HBCU piece, the Carolinas is in the region next to me. That's Region 4. The regional administrator is Alan Thomas. So he has Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And we have been talking about, because between his region and mine, we have the largest concentration of HBCUs. So we've been talking about how to bring these type of conversations during the various homecomings, when these big classics come up, to have SBA folks there to talk to not only the students, but, the graduates as well. And in advance of the LSU Southern game, we are planning something, that speaks directly to what you mentioned, Howard, like getting this information to college students.
No, definitely. We'll talk about that offline. Brother Mandrell, glad you're able to show up, and, it's always been a supporter of HBCU Biz, but definitely unmute yourself and share or ask away.
I'm just, I apologize for getting on, man. We've been swamped in business today, so just able to get on, and I'm just joining. So I didn't really have a question, but I was just getting in. So I'm looking forward to partaking the rest of the session. So thank you, Brother James and Brother White.
Ted, Brother Mandrell kind of came through a unique standpoint. He was a principal one upon a time, business owner, then franchise owner, and really helping others take those next steps. And that's the kind of like to your heart, really that service of giving back.
Yeah.
And Ted, please feel free to comment on that. Before you do that, anyone else that might want to join the conversation or have a question directly of Mr. James, Ted James, please ask to share your audio, video, and then you'll be brought on screen, or place it in the chat. Yeah, Ted, one of the things that we talked a little bit about that, showing a loss all the time. And Joyce Johnson, who's a sales trainer, she's a great sales trainer. And she will be part of that conversation, a PV grad. She's part of HBCU Biz. But she talked about operating at 7 years for a loss. And so when you sit down with your accountant, your CPA, you can operate at a loss from a tax standpoint, but you got to have the cash flow to keep your business viable with the projection of being profitable at some time. If you could talk about that a little bit there, Ted.
Yeah, I mean, we, and I get it. And honestly, my eyes weren't really open to it until I really started to look at the folks that didn't get through the COVID idle piece. And I started to ask, what are we looking for? Number one, because I wanted to see the percentage of Black folks that they were telling no. That was the first thing I wanted to see. And then I wanted to see what were the issues, and a lot of them, when there were two things that popped up, like before, PPP, and this is nothing against the previous administration. I could spend a lot of time talking about that. But when the PPP, there was no checks and balances, right? They weren't looking at tax information. It was, and I think I've been a legislator, so I think it was a rush to just get the money out there. So then when Congress, they said, no, you guys have to start to verify what folks are putting on the application. And a lot of times what folks put on the application didn't match what was on the tax return. You have to be able to show that the SBA is going to give you $1 million. You have to be able to show that you can repay that back. And I saw that, unfortunately, when we started to ask the questions, a large percentage of the issues were folks that, I don't know them personally, but largely said, "Hey, I'm a successful business," but the tax documents just didn't show that, so that you could reach the level of support for the SBA. And as we transition to our more traditional lending programs, the same criteria applies, and certain lenders are going to be looking for that, and they're going to examine it. So we have been, really having some conversations, and what I challenge my staff. I'm like, well, stop having conversations with the business owners. Start having conversations with, because I know some CPAs that helped a lot of people get money during the pandemic. But even, as we started talking about with hurricane season just starting, we are trying to educate folks today on how to prepare, especially in Louisiana. How this is not a question of when, if, it's when, right? Something is going to happen, and you need to be prepared, because a lot of what I saw through the COVID recovery is it speaks directly to some of our more traditional programs, and just the financial literacy piece. And especially in certain communities, you can't get to the contracting piece, because even with the contract, some going to require you to get more capital, but you can't get to the capital until you are way back here, the financial literacy piece for some folks. So it's all it's all circular, in my opinion.
It is, and you have to get in that circle somehow, and that's why we need folks like you there to help pass those entry points. It's like getting on a busy freeway. You got to merge on somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
So Miss Harris is Miss Tony Harris Taylor is in Houston area. She actually owns a couple franchises that help people network and connect. Ted, and she didn't go to an HBCU, but she met her second husband at an HBCU, TSU grad. So Tony, if you would please share.
Hello, everybody. As Howard said, Tony Harris Taylor. I have two businesses, Network in Action. I'm a multi-unit franchisee where I connect business owners through networking to help them to grow. And then drastic results, marketing and sales coaching. I first want to give an amen to what you all are talking about when it comes to having your books in order. There's two areas most business owners fail. It's in the marketing and sales, and then it's in keeping the books. Yeah. And I had to learn the hard way. You cannot take eternal deductions and still try to apply for loans, apply for a home. And I would love to have my community, our community, to reframe the paying of taxes. This year, I got the privilege of paying $14,000 in taxes with a whole lot of deductions. Got to claim over $100,000 in income. It's my privilege to pay taxes. You know why? Because the more taxes I pay, the more money I've made, the more people I have served. And if we can just get that in line, I believe that we will all do better. So that's the first thing. So keep shouting that from the rooftop. We cannot take all the deductions and still show up as a viable business. Learn that the more you pay, the more privilege you have, because you've served a lot of people in the process. So that's my first thought. My second thought is, I feel like I'm ready to go get money. I did qualify for EIDL and PPP and all of that, but I'm in a growth phase and I want to get some funding. But I feel like because I'm a solopreneur that I'm limited. So can you talk to me about being able to get funding as a solopreneur? And I am ready to grow and hire, and that's why I'm looking for funding, but I feel like I'm not able to qualify as much because I don't have a storefront. I work from home, and I do have an office, Let me take that
Yeah.
back. I have an office space, but I'm solo. So how do I grow so I can hire?
Yeah. So a few things. Number one, in the Houston area, I would always encourage you to reach out to some of our lender relations specialists there, because like I could tell you high level that our 7A loan is probably where you want to start, looking at that product, depending on how much you're looking to borrow. So we have a micro loan it caps at 50,000, right? Why you can go to the SBA website and do a lender match, and it will shoot you information for a lender that could be based in Kentucky. It could be an online lender, and nothing against those. But the folks in the office, they know the people in your area that are SBA lenders, right? So they know, like right now, one of the biggest issues that I see is a reluctance of banks to give under $1 million, right? I don't know how much you're looking for, right? So the microloan program is caps at 50. I speak with a lot of solos and the smallest of small folks, and they're not looking for $1 million. They're looking for 250,000, 500,000. So the folks in the offices, they know the lenders that are in that space. A lot of the big banks, they're not looking to lend that lower amount because, of course, for them, they don't see it as a huge return. So that's a part of what I do weekly, really trying to push folks to lend under $1 million, because I think it's a whole untapped market of folks that aren't looking for that amount of money. So our mission-based lenders, the Community Advantage program may be something that you may want to look into as well. So our Community Advantage program is for mission-based lenders. So you being a Black woman, right? You are, depending on, you sound like you had a very good year last year. You probably still will certify as a small disadvantaged business. Now, one of the misnomers, you don't have to have the certification to go out and get an SBA loan. So I'm not saying that, but we have lenders that look specifically to that. Some of our mission-based lenders are looking for a woman-owned business. They're looking for minority-owned business. And the folks in the district office at Houston, they can tell you those folks in the area. And, with the Community Advantage program, it is one that is designated, like I said, the mission-based, so people of color, woman, veteran, hub zone, and the max there is 350,000. So that may be a product that is, something that is beneficial for you. And none of our, I'm not going to say none, but the majority of the programs, there is no requirement that you have a brick and mortar, space.
No, definitely.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I don't know how you could send out my email, and I can connect Ms. Taylor to the folks in Houston.
No, we definitely will do that, Ted, as well as I'm going to be circling back with you on the whole HBCU biz component.
Okay.
Because that's our sole mission of helping businesses connect and unite to their HBCU family. And so we'll circle back on that, and definitely you'll be in front of them again, as well as some of your team members helping even at a more deeper and intimate level. Next person on Mr. Byron Riley. He's a Jaguar. As you can see, put Jag Nation in there. But he's also a CPA. And, I'll say this transparently. He is the person that challenges me with my books. So he's my CPA, but more importantly, he was the reason I was able to survive through COVID when our store was shut down, having things in order. So Byron, if you would, please share or ask the question of Mr. James.
Hey, Mr. James, how you doing? And thank you.
What's going on, brother?
Pretty good. I was fortunate and blessed to speak earlier in the session, and my session was called Bankable Books. And so I had to come on when I heard you talk about on one of the slides I have. I call it the Banker's Financial Review, and the first one was tax return. The first one was, are you current on your tax filings and payments? And also, too, I informed them that most people don't realize when one of the C's is character, that's the first first thing people ask about your tax returns. They use that as a character question.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's so ironic to hear you saying these exact same things. And so it's pretty powerful, really. I wish there's a way we can get that message out more. People, I really think it's more of a fear factor than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not as educated. And the other area is on getting people to focus on their balance sheet. Most people only focus on the income statement and not paying taxes, but you have to have a balance sheet too.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So
most folks ain't got that.
Yeah. Or another thing for people who've been in business, say 10 years or longer, they might have it, but because they hadn't focused on it, they don't know how to pull it together.
That's right.
Yeah.
So and we one of the things that in that the memorandum with the Divine Nine, that's kind of one of the things that I am, as we are pushing through the programming of it. One of the things is the program, it wasn't ready to really go public yet, but the Divine Nine had their lobby day in DC last week, so it was easier to try to get them together to do the official business while they were there. So now it's kind of like, we loaded up the plane, but we didn't have the destination yet, so we just sitting on the tarmac right now. So one of the things is when we're talking about what is the information that we need to give to our college students versus, the young adult that may be transitioning out of the corporate sector or, going there, that's the type of conversation we need to be having about what your books need to look like, right? Because if you hadn't, my undergrad is accounting, and I think I realized in my junior year I was going to law school, so it's a lot of stuff that I graduated, but it's a lot of stuff that just is behind me, right?
And you did the minimum, Ted, just to get that B plus or A.
That's right. It's my grades were contingent upon who I was sitting next to in the while we were taking the test. But and it's something that I've told them that's the conversation that we got to have with a different demographic, because as I think I forgot her name, young lady that spoke, Miss Taylor, mentioned, I had the same issue, with my law practice, and it is, I had a very successful year, and then that tax bill came, and I was like, wait, what? And my CPA is always like, I tell you, pay quarterly or take the taxes out when you get the settlement. Take the taxes out when you get the settlement, and that is just that's a much easier exercise that I've been going through for the past 2 years, as opposed to getting that tax bill and writing that big check. And that, like Ms. Riley, I think that is just something that we just culturally we just got to push it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be circling back with that, and we'll be tapping into Byron and other CPAs across the HBCU marketplace, because there are so many of them that could serve both our existing businesses and help educate and put that together, that structure for those aspiring business owners. Ms. Joyce Johnson, this is a PV grad, and she's one of those Divine Nine members, Mr. James. So we just just glad to have a diversity here.
Yeah,
good deal.
Joyce, if you would please unmute yourself and share.
Yeah, you said Divine Nine, but you didn't mention Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Oh, you said differently.
Right. I heard you say Kappa and Alpha.
I
heard you say Kappa and Alpha. That's why
you wanted me to say that. You wanted to hear them long A's. Okay.
I wanted to hear Alpha Kappa. So when that, but anyway, gentlemen, thank you, Howard, again for this platform. Thank you for engaging me on it, etc. I mentioned earlier about the Amazon thing and operating at a loss. I just wanted to hone into that. What I meant was, I speak with a lot of business owners, and because a lot of business owners, of course, I have my accountant, he keeps me honest and things, and we ought to pay taxes so that we can show that we are in business. So I understand the cash flow part. I just, was saying that to say to individuals, a lot of times people end up quitting because they, in our community, they feel if they've been in business for a couple of years, 2-3 years, whatever, and they're cash flowing, but they're not profitable, they see that as a failure, right? And so I'm just always mindful of the language that we're using when we're communicating with those entrepreneurs and small business owners, because it is a passion. It is painful. It is, the hardest thing that anyone will ever try to do in their lives is entrepreneurship and becoming and growing a business, right? And so I just see so many times when people feel like, oh, they're just going to quit because people are like, well, you're not profitable. You're not profitable. And so I do this room for women, right? Women business owners. And it's titled Don't Give Up, right? I do it on Clubhouse. And so, and when I'm speaking with those women all the time, it's like, don't give up. Yes, you maybe didn't earn that profit you wanted that year, but you're cash flowing, you're in business, and you're sustaining. And so that's just what I meant by that. Being careful in the language that we use as not to discourage entrepreneurs from their journey. Gotcha. That's it. Thank you.
Well, no, Joyce, I think that's, super key is part of our theme, second half of the year of Growing TED is progress versus perfection. Kind of like you talked about that protege mentor relationship, that's really progress. Ideally, you would like to have the big 7, 10, 8-figure contract, whichever number it is, with the billions out there. But you got to grow to that level. So you got to progress to that level. And, that's a lot of what Joyce is saying is that, it's progress. And once again, that target, i.e. that target of profitability is just a target. Success falls somewhere between here and there. And being okay with that. Talk about that though, Ted, if you would, the mindset that you've run into. You're relatively new, so you're seeing it from a lens of I've come from as an entrepreneur, I've come as a legislator, now I'm helping small business owners. Talk about the mindset shift that is necessary for businesses to really grow to their next level.
Yeah, I think that it is like Ms. Johnson just mentioned, speaking to them in a language that doesn't intimidate them, but you also have to be realistic about where you are, right? Like I mentioned, like some of our our 8A program, and there are some businesses that are not ready for it yet, right? The worst thing that you could do is get in it and not be able to benefit from it because you are losing years in it. So I think that we have to have realistic expectations about where we are as an entrepreneur and where we want to go. Because when you are, especially when you are looking at capital, the worst thing that you could do is ask for more than you can handle and be given it, right? Because at that point you are just forced into in a conversation or issue where you might have to shut down. Like there's an article that just came across a couple of days ago about a business in Baton Rouge that shut down, and I know that they were one of the companies that didn't get through the EIDL, right? And I think that had they received that EIDL loan, they may still be open today. But I'm also recognizing, because I know the business, and I don't know how much they were requesting, but if they had received it, I don't know if they would have been in a place to pay it back, right? And that's some conversations that I had with the business owner as we were going through it, and I cautioned. I was like, hey man, you guys, be careful, be careful, because you may actually get what you're asking for, and and they had to have some tough decisions. I think that one of the other mindsets that for me that has been real challenging, even in the number of contracts, and I keep talking about contracts because all of our SBA programs, you got to pay something, right? Like the counseling, of course, is free, but for our capital programs, you got to pay something back, right? Our certification in the contracts, that's us giving you money, right? That's the federal government giving you money. So I focus on the certifications because they get you to the contracts, which is the program that we have that's really, that you actually get something, tangible out of it. with the resources that you could get with doing work with the government. But I was looking at like our 8A program was started by Congress for Black businesses. It was a program that was started to make sure that Black businesses were able to contract with the federal government. Now, when I look at the percentages of firms that are 8A that are Black owned, they're about 47% of the firms are Black owned, but we only get 14.8% of the contracts. And now you have, women owned, and that was for white women to get in, right? Now you have Native American, now you have veterans, and yes, they got Black folks with Native American, they got Black veterans, but we had the Black already. So all of these different additions were not for Black folks. It was a program that was beneficial to us, that folks saw, and they were like, okay, well, we can't take it from them. That's too blatant. We just gonna add and dilute it, and we're gonna continue to put more people in. It's the same thing that I see, the Hudson Initiative for the state. It's okay, but it's not a direct mandate. So the mind shift for me, like you mentioned, a lot of the fights that I had in the Capitol. Now it's a totally different fight to make sure that this program that was traditionally created for us, that we don't lose it. And now we only getting 14% of the contracts when we used to get 100, right? That's problematic for me, right? And I think about that. And one of the other things that I tell folks too, in all of my district offices, so I have 10 offices, and the SBA businesses are defined by the NAIS code, right? So I look at, give me the top 5 NAIS codes that are getting contracts. So if your industry, I'm not going to tell you to go and get in the 8A program if I don't see folks in your area that do what you do getting contracts, because I feel like I'm wasting your time if I don't have a realistic conversation with you about it. And what I can say is, hey, if you go to Arkansas, my folks in Arkansas, with that line of work, they're getting a lot of contracts, but that will require of you to go and market yourself there. And if you get a contract, you're going to have to go there. You're going to have to hire people there, as opposed to just telling people like, hey, come on and come and get these certifications. Because of course, I am reviewed by the number of certifications in my state. So I can really go push people, go get certified. But I feel like I'm doing a disservice if I'm pushing folks to get certifications and they can't end up doing the work, because they're not offering those type of contracts in that area. And if they aren't nimble enough to be able to go out, like we have some firms, our Louisiana Business Person of the Year, he's doing work all over the country, right? He has the ability to do that. Not every small business can do that. So we have to really, be, number one, honest enough with folks to tell them that before they go down a path that won't be beneficial. And then we just got to be intentional to be able to make sure we help them.
No, definitely, because you can get too much, and too much can take you under if you're not careful. We have time for one more question. I know you have a hard stop here, Mr. James, and definitely appreciate your time. And you and I'll be circling back with your team to see how, we can continue this HBCU conversation, but really helping us grow. Yomi is a TSU grad living out in Austin, that area. If you would go ahead and ask your question there, Yomi.
Okay. Yeah. My question is, what did I do here? I hope I didn't kick myself out.
We still got you.
Okay, you got me. Okay, all right. Here's my question, Ted, and thank you for. You just have vast information, but that's typical of an attorney anyway. So sorry, this is slow information that you have. So here's what I want to ask. For me, as a small business person, I've been in the insurance business, and I've always asked myself, how relevant is all this to me? And I know if I dig in, I'll find out something. But right off the bat, because after all these years, I'm like, why didn't I even pursue this kind of financial resources for me to grow? And that's really where my struggle came in. And Howard may remember that initially when I met. See, when you learn the art of doing business, you're able to do business well. And that's where most of us, we struggle, because, the energy to do the business itself is not enough. The art of doing the business and what you're doing is part of it. But how do I? How will somebody like me even feel confident that I can benefit and come to your office? What will be the outlook? I'm an insurance agent. So
Yeah, I honestly I don't see, when I talked about those codes of folks that are getting, I don't see a lot of, folks in the insurance business being able to do work with the federal government, right?
okay.
Some of our of course access to capital programs would be, beneficial to you if you needed more, I don't know, if you want to buy a new building or if you're looking to staff up, right? Cash flow issues that, I would talk to you more about our capital programs as opposed to the contracting and certification, right? Like I wouldn't push you there because I don't see the, federal government out there, issuing a lot of contracts to, folks in the insurance business.
Okay, so it's mostly more like cash flow, and I
Mhm.
thought one of them you said earlier, because normally I'm always also very leery of owning the federal government, because when you own the federal government, it's a lifelong thing. They will hunt you down anywhere you go.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think the benefit of the SBA is that there is it's you get the government guarantee, for the banks get it, right? And they get the guarantee at about 80%. So of course the federal, they're gonna find you. I tell people that all the time, but I think that the benefit of it is that they have that guarantee. The bank has that guarantee from the government, right? And most of the time, folks, recognize that if you are at the point where you are successful in getting that access to capital, you have proven that you are somebody that is that has their ability to repay, and somebody that the federal government would trust. The other thing is, I send a lot of people to lenders thinking that they will end up with an SBA product, and they end up getting a commercial loan that's not a non-SBA. So and for me, it doesn't help my numbers, but it helps somebody, right? So you may go to a lender thinking about an SBA product, and they might say, hey, we could get you into this one. Now, with interest rates the way they are, I feel like most of our products are a lot more, you're gonna get a better interest rate with an SBA product right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Yami, thanks a lot for bringing
No
those
problem.
questions up. And then I'm going to share one thing that, Ted, I think, in that service is look to do business with businesses that are doing business with the federal government. So sometimes you may not be able to do it directly, but if you can, insurance, I'll take it. If you could actually provide the funding for companies, that puts you in a position. We had a couple questions in the chat. One was asking about the top codes. Are those top codes published? You mentioned those 5 codes that you ask each office for.
No, they're not.
Okay.
I can get the information though, but it's not something that's published. I don't think so. If I will search, my answer is no. But I'm going to look to just confirm. But I don't think it's something that's out there.
And what that really refers to, for those that are listening, there are geographical nuances for certain codes, meaning that certain amount of constructions or certain type of construction is going on in this area, whereas there may be more personnel related components going on in heavily government areas. So those are small things that what Mr. James is talking about, from my understanding. And so, you look at that and say, okay, in Arkansas, these are the businesses that we're doing business with as federal government, versus in Louisiana is something different because we're more coastal and may not have as much grain or different types of waterways.
That's right.
There's a question here from a gentleman, I think Greg is in North Carolina, but he asked, how's the SBA looking at 2020 financials when doing the evaluation of a business for acquisition? And I'm a little unclear on it, maybe. How is the SBA looking at 2020 financials when doing the evaluation of a business for acquisition?
I'm honestly
Okay,
not.
so I'm a little unclear
I'm
on
guessing
that
is, and I'm guessing the question is with as difficult as 2020 was for most of us. Or why are we looking at that? Or if we are,
or how is that viewed in the process?
Yeah, so that is a question that is a let me say this. It depends, and I hate this answer, right? As a law professor, I tell my students that it just depends. It depends on what type of lender, right? Because the SBA, again, the SBA is we have certified lenders that you do this, you take this exam, your folks are certified in the SBA criteria, then you are SBA certified lender after some training. But a lot of those banks have their own criteria, and I don't know what like the benchmark is for that SBA is giving the lenders the guidance on to give weight to 2020. I just don't know that.
Okay, no, fair enough. And the last one, just clarification, the official name of the Women Business Centers, the Office of Women Entrepreneurs.
So which one? So if they are like Louisiana is at the Urban League, right? We just opened one at Jackson State. Benedict College has one. Hold on.
So they're housed.
It's on the website.
They're housed with various partners, local partners, as well as you can go to the SBA website and actually identify those resources.
Yeah. If you look the women's, it's called OBO, and you can go and here we go. So all at Morgan State, Benedict College, Virginia Union, Jackson State, Alcorn State, Winston-Salem, Bennett College, Miles College, Bowie State, Savannah State. All right, so those are all of the HBCUs that house them, and we have them at other, like I said, the Urban League in Louisiana has one. The one in Tulsa is with another minority serving institution, but it's not a HBCU, but it's an organization. We put out a grant program last year where minority serving institutions could apply to open a WBC. So most of them that applied were HBCUs though.
Okay. Well, Ted, first of all, I want to say thanks a lot for coming aboard. That's number one. Number two, I definitely appreciate your journey. As someone that's a little bit older than you, as I sit and watch the dynamic things that you've done, chase your dreams, but more importantly, chase them while still serving others. To me, that is the mark of a true servant.
Thank you, sir.
Think with that. Any last words as you close out that you want to share?
I would just encourage folks like you all are doing this collaboration and sharing of information. Way too often folks hide the ball. Like when the announcement came out that I got this job, a friend of mine, he was like, "Man, I hate that you going to the SBA. I've been using the SBA." He's like, "Now everybody about to be calling the SBA," and I was like, "Dude, that's the wrong attitude." We should be doing the exact opposite. We shouldn't be hiding the ball. We should really be putting it out there because it's opportunities out there for everybody to be successful. So I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Hey, with that said, we'll officially close this session out, and I'll use the words of one of Ted's frat brothers, but the head coach of Southern University. The theme is spot the ball, and so we should be spotting the ball and inviting others to come play.
There you go.
And so we can make the game bigger for everybody that's willing and have the ability to play, but training those that want to play and don't quite have the ability. And so, Mr. James, thanks a lot again for being part of HBCU Biz. I can guarantee you this. We'll be following up with you to see how we can do more. And so you will not be a stranger to HBCU Biz as we continue to grow this community of HBCU business owners.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All righty.
All right, man.
Have a great rest of the week.
Thank
Probably
you.
see you around somewhere in Baton Rouge.
That'll work.
All righty. Well, I want to thank